Hi guys, welcome back to game 10 of my journey to 1500 rating. I'm sorry that I didn't post any video from past 1 week. I was busy with my online classes. And before starting today's game, uh, let's congratulate Team India for winning gold medal in online chess Olympiad. The gold medal is also shared with the Team Russia. Congratulations to both the teams. So let's start today's game. And mine are blacks, opponents are whites. And he started with e4. Replied with c6, bishop to c4, and d5. This setup is called Caro-Kann defense. He captured the pawn. I captured the pawn on d5, and he went back to b3. e6 just to develop my bishop. He developed his knight to f3, knight to c6, castled, and knight to f6. Now he pushed d3 to develop his dark square bishop, and my bishop to d4, and he developed his bishop to g5, attacking the knight, pinning the knight. So just h6, he went back to h4, bishop back to h7 just to unpin this. Now he pushed h3, I castled. Now c3, b5 just to push the pawns. He went bishop to c2 and a5, d4, bishop to b7. All these moves are just to just to develop the pieces and just to put them in the good squares. Bishop captures on f6, bishop captures on f6, queen to d3, threatening checkmate on h7. So I just pushed the pawn to g6 and h4. His plan is to just attack this side and capture here. If I allow him to capture this pawn, I have to capture with this pawn. Then the queen comes here. Then the game is over. That was his idea. So I just pushed b4 and h5. He's ready to capture the pawn, but here I didn't allow him. I bishop to a6, attacking the queen. If the queen moves, I can capture the rook. That was my idea, to push b6 here, b4 here. So queen to e3, and here I pushed my bishop to g5, attacking the queen. Instead of this, I should have directly captured the rook here. But while playing, I thought to put pressure on the queen so that the tension here would be reduced. But this is a inaccuracy. This bishop to g5 is a inaccurate move. He captured the bishop with the knight. I captured with the queen. He captured the queen with his queen, exchanging the queens. I captured it with the pawn, and he just moved the rook as there was an attack here. Now I captured the pawn on h5. So here bishop to a4, attacking the knight, and knight back to e7, bishop to d1, attacking this pawn. So pawn to h4 and rook to e5 wants to attack this pawn because there was no protection for this. Here if I could push this pawn to protect here, but this weakens this pawn, which is the central pawn. So here I just blocked the rook's way with my knight to f5 and bishop to g4. Instead of bishop to g4, he could have pushed this pawn here. Uh, this bishop to g4 is an inaccurate move because it it does nothing. You will see now. Bishop to g4, and I moved my bishop to d3 just to protect this knight, and now he is bringing his knight to attack king side. Knight to d2, and I captured the pawn on c3. He captured the pawn on c3, and I just want to bring my king into the game. just to give protection to the knight. And knight to f3 want to attack this pawn here. So king to g6 protecting that pawn, and rook to d1 attacking the bishop. Bishop to e4 now attacking this knight, which is so powerful I felt while playing. And knight to d2. Here knight bishop to c2 just attacking the rook, and rook to c1 attacking the bishop. Bishop to d3 again, and now he captured the knight on f5. That's why I told you this bishop to g4 was an inaccurate move, because it didn't do anything, just exchanged the pieces at the end. So bishop captured knight on f5. I captured the bishop on f5, and he pushed c4. Before capturing this c4 pawn, I pushed f6 attacking the rook. Here he can't capture because the bishop is protecting. So he went back to e1. Now I captured the pawn. He captured the pawn on knight. Sorry, he captured the pawn with his knight. And now rook to d4 attacking this pawn. Knight to b6 now attacking this rook. Rook to a6 now attacking the knight. Knight back to c4. Now I could actually capture this pawn, but before capturing it, I pushed the pawn to a4. And now f4. I captured the pawn. He captured this pawn, and now I shouldn't capture this pawn with this pawn, because the knight is coming to e5 with a check. It could be a risky position, because this knight would be a central position, in a central square. So I didn't allow that. I captured the pawn with the king. Now king to e3, putting pressure on the bishop. Bishop back to g6, and knight to f1. He just want to bring his knight to here. And now bishop to d3 attacking the knight. Here knight to h2. This knight to h2 is a good move, because he's planning to fork me with knight to f3, king with the king and the rook. Luckily I observed that, so I just prevented that square with bishop to e4. Now rook to c5 with a check. I just push the pawn to f5, and it also protects the bishop. And now rook to c8. He wants to attack this way. And rook to d2. Now I want to put pressure here. And rook to g8 check. And king to f4. Now I can't implement this plan, because rook is protecting. Knight to f1 attacking the rook. Rook to a2 capturing the pawn. Now I'm up by 3 pawns. It's clearly winning for me. And now rook to e3 and rook to b2. I just cleared a way. I just want to push this pawn to promote it a queen. Now rook to h3 wants to capture this pawn and attack in this way. a3 and rook to h4 check, capturing the pawn. King to e5, the only move which I have, because this is covered with the knight, this is covered with the pawn, this is covered with the rook. This all are covered with the rook. So the only move which I was having is king to e5. Now rook to e3, a good move, because he's again planning to fork my king and the rook. I didn't allow that. Rook to b1 check, and king to h2. Now I started pushing a2. Probably there is nothing to do to stop this pawn from becoming a queen. I'm clearly winning here. And knight to c4 check. He tried giving few checks. And king to d5 attacking the knight. Knight to e3. King to d4 attacking the knight again. And knight to c2 attacking the knight to c2, again a check. Now king to e5. Now there is no chances for him to give a check. And he came back, knight to e3. He again want to do that, repeat the moves. But this time now, I pushed the pawn to promote it a queen. Again, he gave a check on c4, king to d5, and knight to e3 check, king to c5 now, because now there he can't give any checks. If he give with the rook, I can block it with my rook. Nothing else he can do. So in this position, my opponent has resigned the game. So this is the game, a beautiful one, where the soldiers are so powerful. As the material was equal, I had two extra pawns, which made the difference. So that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much.